It's Lucy and Duncan here, back for episode 4 of our podcast. And today with us, we've got Stephen Ireland, known to us as Steve, who's the head of machine learning and AI at HelloSelf, for a conversation that I'm really looking forward to. Okay, brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you. Steve, thank you for joining us on our podcast. You are our second guest so far who we've had come and join us. The others were just myself and Duncan rambling. And it's really lovely to have you, especially because you are from the tech side of HelloSelf, hugely important, and certainly in terms of bums on seats, biggest part of the organisation. And as therapists, and of course all our associates, clinical work is going on using the platform, benefiting from the features, or indeed being frustrated by things that temporarily don't work, like we have just had with our internet tussles. But it's very much sort of seeing that, I suppose, kind of more surface side of the sort of tech aspect of HelloSelf. So it's awesome to have you here, because we now hopefully can learn a little bit more about what's happening under the bonnet a bit more. So thank you for coming.
Sure. No, thank you for having me. It's exciting to get a chance to chat about this stuff. It can be a bit of an echo chamber within tech, and it's nice to sort of poke our heads out occasionally. Um, so
Like that.
yeah, to give you a bit of an idea of who I am, obviously my name's Steve. I head up. I'm a head of machine learning and AI at HelloSelf, and to give you brief overview of what that's entailed. It's a real mix of things. Obviously, I've been here for a little while now. It's just over 4 years, I believe. So starting from a very sort of small group of people, and then slowly ever expanding, which is a really exciting thing to be part of. But that has also meant my role has been incredibly varied. So there was a period of time where you just have to sort of muck in and get things done as a startup. So that was very much onboarding therapists, getting to meet them all as well, and showing them around the platform. There was setting up some financial stuff as well. Like it really was very varied, which is it's been a great experience.
And I'm fascinated by your job role, your job title, head of machine learning and AI. Like, what what's involved in that, and where are you focusing your efforts at the moment?
Yeah, no, I must admit I'm chuffed with it. It's been an exciting role to be in, particularly in this space as well. So we're seeing a lot of change, particularly more recently, around how we're using AI and machine learning, and more. I'm quite thankful of how much it's you know broken through to more people. Like people are starting to get it more and understand how it can be used as a tool. And that's very much how my role exists within HelloSelf, is how do we leverages some of this tooling and information that we have available to us, and how do we sort of supercharge that um, sort of therapy experience. So what are some I like the term co-pilot almost. So, what are sort of like the co-pilot to a therapy or
Mm.
therapist can be, rather than trying to step in or on anyone's toes in this sense. It's very much how can we assist with that therapy process.
And so, what's that looking like at the moment from a machine learning and AI perspective, Steve?
Sure. So we actually see a lot of useful stuff outside of therapy. So we know that therapy is a very human thing. We've obviously spoken to you all about this previously. Of what is therapy? What is it to you? And trying to distill that down. Um, so there's a lot to be learnt there, and in fact we're continuing to learn more and more. or building more information about it and being able to put that back into the system. So, for example, some of the stuff we're looking at now is how do we assist with sort of the more day-to-day admin-y things that are required to be done, but don't necessarily add to the sort of like the therapist client experience. So it's things like how can we improve report writing, for example? How do we make that easier for people? How do we build back into various systems that allow us to, you know, more greatly reduce risk or identify risk and that kind of thing. So it's a tool set that is able to assist the therapy process.
I mean, just from that, I can just really see the applicability and how it could really, like you say, Copilot, improve, enhance, make it more efficient in terms of what we do. And so, a question from that then, like with your knowledge of machine learning and AI, like where would you like it to take us? Where would you like to go with that? Like what is in the art of the possible in the next, I don't know, 1 to 2 years, or is
Yeah,
that?
it's a great question. I think there's been a lot of excitement about what we're calling large language models. So we see GPT and those kind of, like, as I said, large language models. They are ginormous models that are able to sort of err on the side of creepiness in certain senses, of how realistic some of the responses are. But
And
it's
sorry, just to jump in, these are the sorts of where you give something and or talk at something and it summarizes what you're saying, or ask it to write an essay on anxiety disorders and it does
yeah,
it for you. That's the sort of, that's what you mean, those GPT
yes,
things, is that right?
yeah, exactly. So we see these language models that are able to produce text, as it were,
Yeah,
that you can ask it questions and it will respond in a way that seems reasonable. And there's obviously a huge number of caveats around it. While on the one hand, it's exciting that people are excited about this stuff. The other hand, I think it has been a little bit misconstrued of what it's able to do and
Mm,
how it operates.
yeah,
So I don't see it replacing, particularly in our domain, replacing any of the therapist side of things.
yeah,
Um, I see it very much as an assistant to a very human process, because there are things that need to exist, like these report writings. It's identifying risk. It's taking that almost um, the very clinical tick boxy things out of that equation, so the therapist can really focus on what they're good at, which is working with the member themselves.
mm,
and what it's obviously like, news at the minute is all quite topical. AI is going to mean hundreds of thousands of people are going to lose their jobs, and people, there's sort of senior people saying this is a humanity crisis, and you know and I think, with all sorts of things, definitely not just limited to tech, new things cause a lot of anxiety. And
Mm.
um, what what do you say to that? When we see these things in the news, you read these things saying, yeah, oh my God, this is, might be terrible. And then here we are working in a business where, the way you describe it, this isn't about totally transforming the world. This is about how can we make sort of smaller scale differences to therapists in the way they work to increase accessibility to therapy for people. What's your sort of counter to these big dramatic statements we see?
I think, at least for me, the obvious one is looking back in history. So we've had these kinds of things before, these sort of transformative tools. Just look at the internet, right?
Yeah.
Um, one previously it didn't exist, but now it does, and we've seen lots of change around that. And like right now, we're able to perform this sort of remote teletherapies over the internet. Like that couldn't have
Yeah.
existed before. So
Yeah.
it's providing accessibility,
Yeah.
rather than trying to take it away.
Mhm.
Um, and I do really see it's the same kind of thing here, where yes, there was obviously a lot of anxiety around it, and that's completely fair enough. Um, but when things get popularized, and then actually used, they end up being two different things.
Yeah.
Um,
So, what's day to day life for you like at HelloSelf? Is it a predominantly sort of behind the screen tweaking things tech type role? Is it a kind of planning strategy position? Is it a mix of the two? Tell us a little bit more about what it looks like for you.
Sure. So right now it's very much a mix of the two. So I I really like being able to sort of keep my hands in and just continue doing the very technical things, as well as being able to look more forward thinking. So there's a lot of planning around doing that kind of work. So right now it's about 50-50, and sort of lucky position to be able to continue to do that. And I think there's definitely um, remit to choose however much technical or not technical you want to do at HelloSelf, which is no, it's a great position to be in. From how we're set up as a team, so obviously we are primarily very technical people, and we sit within what we call EPD. So it's our engineering, product, and design. So from the off, we're already working with the larger tech team. We're not siloed off anywhere. We're um, we have visibility, and obviously that works both ways. So we have visibility, they have visibility over what we're doing, and it's a lot more cohesive in that respect. But no, it's a good way of operating, particularly for the sort of like the growing stages we are doing at the moment.
Yeah.
And you started to give a bit of a hint about the kind of culture within the tech branch or the tech teams and the
Mhm.
sub teams. Help give us an insight into what the HelloSelf culture is like within the tech realm.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that. So culture as a whole, particularly in tech, is a difficult one to get. I'm hesitant to say right, but more correct. Um, it's something that just takes effort. It's not something that just happens.
Yeah.
So I've been in various tech roles for the last sort of 12 or so years, um, and I've seen that sort of culture change over time. So the culture used to be, I don't know, a foosball table, and that's it. Like you just call it a day, and like, all right, fine, that's culture. But no, I think it's much broader than that, and it's being very purposeful about how do we build autonomy into teams. How do we just enable people to be like their like their best way of performing. So it's identifying like how do people want to work, and from there. Obviously, all teams are different as well. So how does a team want to operate? Like it's very, as I say, autonomous, but also within the wider team as well.
And I wonder if people working in tech companies and maybe more specifically tech startups are perhaps sort of better, more skilled and more versed in being able to bring culture to a remote working world, because I guess lots of tech companies do have people scattered more, whereas
Mm.
certainly, from a more sort of clinical position, it was, well, I joined HelloSelf before COVID, and what drew me to HelloSelf was it being a health tech company. I was interested, as much as I love therapists and the clinical world. Actually, I was super keen to work with different sorts of professions, and that really appealed to me. But actually, it's probably much harder for clinicians to move into a remote working world, because generally, most of us have been in NHS background, most of us are working in person, and so COVID, I guess, is the biggest thing that's made that change. Um, how, how do you sort of within the tech part of the company sort of manage that remote working, and I suppose another bit of that is how do you think HelloSelf are doing as a whole, managing to grow culture despite us not seeing each other very much in person?
Mm. Yeah, it's a difficult one, that, because I think remote culture and its how do you be purposeful about that is inherently difficult.
Yeah,
It's it's beyond I don't know a Google Meet or Zoom meeting that's every Friday afternoon where you sort of
yeah,
awkwardly sit in front of people. Like I don't think it's that's not that's what we saw, obviously, straight out of the back of COVID, and we saw a lot of that. And I think people got, a bit disheartened with that approach. Um, and I guess particularly with HelloSelf, we've always had this element of working remotely.
yeah,
Um, even from day one, like there was never an expectation to be in the office for 5 days a week.
yeah, yeah,
That was never the case. That was pre-COVID. So we've always been able to sort of manage how we work as a wider group
yeah,
um, remotely. And I think it varies person to person as well. So um, I like both, but for different purposes. Like seeing
yeah,
people face to face is really energizing. It's something that's um, nice to do, and you get to catch up beyond meetings. You know,
yeah,
but at the same time, it's not always conducive to a piece of work that just needs a bit of quiet time.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah, it varies.
I went into the office last week because I just needed a bit of people connection on Thursday,
Mm.
and it was lovely, and I had some really lovely and helpful and nice and interesting conversations. But I could definitely say my sort of overall productivity of making my way through the to-do list was a little bit less than I
Yeah,
anticipated.
yeah,
So yeah,
It's worth acknowledging that that is also part of it, right? Like being more energized generally is going to help you the next day. It's not just how many check boxes can we get through today.
definitely, yeah,
100%. And I really like that theme, or that of being purposeful. And I was just thinking, Lucy, you were purposeful in that day, in energizing yourself, connecting, building relationships, and that
yeah,
was your purpose. And then, like you say, working from home, definitely much more purposeful in then your administrative tasks, and then seeing, cramming in lots of meetings. So I think, yeah,
yeah,
it's like you say,
yeah.
how we focus on what we're going to be purposeful in
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
Um,
it's true. And maybe when we're all in the, if you were in the office every day, 5 days a week, across an individual day, you may switch purpose. This is my
yeah,
focus time. This is my chatting with people, having lunch with people time, whatever it is. Whereas actually, when we work in the world we do, that task switching or purpose switching doesn't necessarily happen within a single day. It maybe happens across days now. So it's like there's a certain day where you give that sort of people time focus. No, I think that's a nice way of thinking about it. Mm.
I was going to ask Steve. One of the things that I think emanated from tech, and it really inspires me. I really like it. Is the way that you celebrate successes, and
Mm.
release new features. And it feels like, I can almost visualize you in, you're all kind of celebrating, clapping around in the room, like whooping that a new feature's been released. And I love that. We should do more of that. But on the other hand, I know that you have a huge to-do list of different features, different products that you're working on, and always kind of trying to push and develop new things. I mean, does it feel like you're kind of seeing the rewards, and kind of introducing those features and seeing them work, or does it feel you're constantly running and trying to catch up with the next thing that's been asked, and the next kind of project? Can you give us a sense of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm going to answer that just broadly more tech hat on. So that has been true of tech for a long time. There is this almost treadmill of work that's coming down the line, and then it might change even while you're working on it. Like that's quite normal. But you've really got to be, as I say, purposeful about how you deal with that. So it's very much, as you say, it's celebrating those wins. Like it's however small, it doesn't really matter. And also it's twofold when we do that kind of thing. So it's letting people know of a change that has occurred and opening that channel to the wide business. Because obviously, as we've grown, that's become harder and harder to do. You can't all just announce it to a room. That doesn't really exist. But we can do that. We can emulate that more easily with tools like Slack and Teams and all that kind of thing. So we can let everyone know this thing's gone out, and it does. It improves this other thing. And I think the nice thing is, as you say, it's celebrating those wins. I must admit, there's very, very little whooping, but we should probably add that.
Oh, don't spoil that visualization.
Sorry, no, it's we've got confetti cannons and everything. It's great.
We're obviously at HelloSelf shifted. I think, are we now officially a scale up rather than a startup? I think we are. What you can answer this with sort of Steve in tech team hat, or a more broad Steve member of HelloSelf hat, or both. But what do you sort of see as some of the opportunities at this point of kind of growth and change, and perhaps also some of the threats, if you see there to be any, to us as we grow, or particularly grow at this rate?
Yeah, I think there's always a bit of anxiety about the scale and pace at which a team or a company can grow, which is why it's particularly pertinent right now to be extremely purposeful about our culture and what things mean to us. I think you've got to make sure that you keep those elements that you like around, but also acknowledge that if you add someone to a team, for example, it's a new team. It's not old team plus one.
Yeah.
Um, like the dynamic can and should change. That's also something that you've got to recognise. And you grow with new people and opinions and backgrounds and their cultures as well. So it's an ever flowing thing, and it'd be, I think personally, I would consider it foolish to sort of enforce some kind of you know company culture from
Yeah.
a top high. I just don't think it works like that.
Yeah.
It's something that emanates from how we operate.
I really like that though, because you're giving, in that sort of statement or holding that view, you're giving an individual permission to bring about change, or contribute to the evolution of culture, rather than, as you said, a sort of fixed idea of this is what this team looks like, this is how this team functions, now fit into that.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
So allowing people to grow, for the group process, for the team to organically change and develop. Yeah, that's a lovely way of thinking about it, and a great opportunities for us, if in that way, if we can support and grow in that way, definitely.
With the sort of pace of how things move, and you were sort of saying, in the tech world, you're used to fast change. I mean, even the language of having things done in sprints, like that, tells us it's got to be fast. Um, does it ever feel stressful in the tech part of the organisation? You all always appear so chill and serene, and maybe that's because I'm just seeing you in all hands, or it's in a nice office day, and with there's snacks nearby to help. But how do you as an individual, and how's the sort of flow and management of stress within that that part of the organisation?
I probably can't speak for tech as a whole.
Yeah.
I think we're one thing I wanted to sort of mention is when I was thinking about joining you guys today was how how working in a particular domain or field can attract certain individuals. And I definitely found it with my previous role. I used to work in charity sectors, and it just tends to like attract nicer people. Like you tend to work with quite nice people, and it's exactly the same here. You tend to work with quite amicable and lovely
Yeah.
people, and um, it's in some ways it's self-selecting, which makes life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, for myself, yeah, I've always um, somewhat thrived on sort of fast moving and hesitant to say chaotic, but you know these things can move quite quickly, and it's keeping on top of that. It's something I've always really enjoyed, and maybe I'm on my own on that one, but yeah, for me that's how I've. I guess that's why I come across as quite chilled.
Well, I love this chill that
Mm,
comes from the. But I wonder as well, though. I mean, you're obviously dealing with, you're dealing with people in as much as, we all work in teams and part of an organisation which contains people. Um, but perhaps, yeah, there's, I suppose, for example, our roles have an awful lot of other people sort of external to the organisation, be it referrers or be
Mm.
it members or be it, so there's a lot of other people involved in the system who we're also working with, and perhaps that's part of what can, sometimes make us feel we've sort of clinging on more
Yeah,
at
yeah,
times.
I think
Storm.
you're right because like tech certainly is a bit more protected from that.
Yeah.
There's fewer touch points we have um, with external sort of companies, people, whoever it may be. Um, I think that's can be a bit of a shame, and it's important for us to continue to do this kind of stuff. Like even like us today, chatting about it and opening that door.
mm.
Yeah. No,
So,
it's really nice.
and with that, I mean, I love learning from different professionals, different people from different trades. You know, just that applicability and just generalizing the skills, the tools that you kind of use day to day in your role, but and take for granted, but actually could be really beneficial in other kind of teams or in other professions. So I just we're moving into April, which is Stress Awareness Month. So you know,
Mm.
we usually kind of like to talk about different kind of mental health related awareness themes that are going on. So in terms of stress, I just wondered that constant treadmill of tasks coming in that you're so used to in tech. What kind of I guess organic or procedural tools do you have in place to help that not feel overwhelming, that you know you have all of these different kind of this to-do list of different tasks? I
Mm.
mean, how do you prioritize, like how do you kind of pace yourself in terms of that treadmill of different kind of tasks that you're having to work on? Any things that we can learn that you guys just naturally do?
Yeah, I think the main one is definitely one you touched upon already, and it's celebrating those things
Mm,
in
mm,
terms of like a feature or a new even a new idea or a new sort of just making sure we reflect and celebrate things that have occurred already.
Mm,
Um, what we do as a sort of a larger tech team as well is make sure obviously we all meet up once a week. We try and do that on a like a weekly cadence, and we all literally all sit round and talk about how the last 2 weeks went. This is our sprint length, so every 2 weeks we design sort of a group of work for it to be built and ideally shipped, um, and get it into people's hand, and we just take some time back from that as you sort of treadmill of work and
mm,
sort of reflect a bit. And yeah, it's by design we do that kind of thing, and it's actually fairly common within tech, and I only now really thinking about it, is that's probably why it's in order to stop and have a little breather about
Yeah.
what the last 2 weeks have been, and how things, how you might want to change things or celebrate wins, and continue to sort of adapt and grow as a team.
Mm,
Oh, Steve, we need you on every week,
yeah.
please.
Well,
Bring your
that is nice
wins,
to hear.
shape us, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, we always try to we have a little feature that we try to do towards the end of each of our podcast sessions, which is where we touch on our high and our low of the week. Would you be willing to join us in that, Steve, this week?
I'm just trying to think of some.
We will let you think a
Yeah,
minute. I
yeah,
know
yeah.
Duncan's already prepared, so he can get to go
Yeah.
first. I'm 50% prepared. I'm lacking the other half.
Okay, I'll go first. My high is related to actually a new, what do you call it, new product, a new feature that we've released a few weeks ago. We've been doing it for a long time, but we've put a more formalized structure around it, and kind of time bound it. So we're poising ourselves to be scalable, and is the clinical panel and the consultation slot. So we now have, each of us CDs have a number of different consultation slots in our diary that associates can book in, ops, people from the referrals team, our colleagues can book in slots anytime. And I just really enjoying the ability, that framework that allows me to meet different people, but also just really enjoy consultation, being able to kind of provide a listening ear to think through a problem or issue with someone, and I'm really enjoying that. So that's definitely a high for me over the last couple of weeks, and also just that's bringing a bit more structure to my day, and I can hang things around
Mm-hmm.
knowing when those consultation slots are, so it feels a bit, kind of more boundaried for me, and each day is a little less chaotic than it was before. So yeah, definitely enjoying that. My low is the amount of rain we've been having this last few weeks. It's unbelievable. I've probably for three weeks trying to get out into my garden to cut the lawn, and to cut the grass, and to do a bit of gardening, which is my therapy, and doing different things. And it's just been hammered by rain. It's so wet. Everywhere is so boggy here. I think I'm in a little weather vortex on the Lake District border. So I'm hoping for some spring, summer, and sunshine to energize me and lift my spirits and allow me to get outside a bit more.
Steve, have you got a high, a low that you could share? They don't need
I,
to be big or groundbreaking. The
that is relieving.
really nice chicken wrap that you have for lunch. That could be.
I think I've touched upon it briefly, and I can't, yeah, decide on which one, but I think the timing of which we're doing some of the AI and machine learning work at the moment couldn't be better. I think people really have, sort of, as a more general populace, starting to understand it better and know what's achievable, and we're still not quite there yet in terms of, not being too anxiety inducing for a number of people. So yeah, that's really exciting, and we're really making like serious steps to actually deliver those things, at HelloSelf, which is exciting. The the other high is obviously, well, not obviously, but I'm getting married this year, so I'm very excited about that.
Boom.
Have you had a low of your
uh,
weeks?
the only low I've had, for the couple of weeks, my cat's not been too well, so
Oh,
I'm having to look after him. But he's doing all right today. He's yeah, no.
oh well, thank you for those. I'm still. I've got to do mine now, haven't I? My high. I normally do the other way around. I'm going to do high first because I've got it. I'm actually going to say for my high, non-work related, but I went and saw the new play, A Little Life, with James Norton. on Monday. James Norton being the kind of the actor, but if anyone's watched Happy Valley, is the main guy in Happy Valley and was phenomenal in that. It was 3 hours 40 minutes, this play, and longest play I've ever seen, and every minute captivating. It was absolutely incredible. It's based on the book of A Little Life. It's very much mental health based. I suppose it's a big theme in it. It's it's dark. It's moving. I've never seen so much blood and nakedness and trauma on stage. However, it was just incredible that someone could communicate what he and the supporting cast did. How they do that every night of the week, I don't know. But it felt a real privilege to witness. I can really recommend it if you can get tickets to it. It was incredible. So that was my high. But I went to see that as part of it. It's my birthday week. It's my husband's birthday week. So I'm going to go with the low being that lovely having birthday week, but the amount of sugar that I seem to be being required to eat morning, noon, and night, like, suits me well for someone who loves sugar, but admittedly, I think my body may be saying otherwise. So I seem to be either on a sugar high or a sugar crash, hour by hour this week. So I'm thinking, yes, the urge to level things out is probably something I need to do over the weekend. So yeah, I've really enjoyed listening to you speak, Steve. Like, it's been really,
Thank you.
really nice to just hear some other sides. And I'm really aware that we've sort of, in a way, because of how we framed this conversation, it has felt a bit you and us, if you know, all the tech team over there.
Yeah.
And of course, we do day-to-day life at HelloSelf work quite separately in that way. But actually, we are one whole organisation, and I think the way that all hands are sort of, for associates who don't know, the sort of big meeting where we all meet every week as a sort of across the teams within the organisation. I do think there's a greater sense of coming together and sort of better cross fertilisation, and I think working along with that feels really important to me, because I really, really enjoy working alongside other people and other teams.
Yeah, likewise. It's particularly a nice thing to be able to do it here.
So that's it. Signing off for now. Thank you, Steve. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'd love to have you back at some point again to find out what happens with machine learning and the AI that you've been describing, and perhaps give us an update. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Thanks, Lucy, and we'll hopefully see you all soon.